to episode 24 of the While She Naps podcast. I'm Abby Glassenberg. My guests on the show today are Cynthia Treen and Alison Kaplan. Cynthia Treen is a Rhode Island-based designer and textile artist. She's worked in design and craft since her studies at the Rhode Island School of Design in the early 90s, and has designed for Dosa in Los Angeles and Martha Stewart Living Magazine and Television in New York, before settling back in Providence, Rhode Island in 2002. In 2010, Cynthia took a transformative year off to design and make a private commission of 4 hand-stitched quilts. This intensive project and her passion to share the craft of hand-stitching were the seeds that inspired the creation of her threadfollower hand-stitching kits, which she launched in 2011. Her threadfollower kits now sell in over 100 gift shops, museum shops, and sewing boutiques across the United States and internationally. Both her kit line and PDF patterns are also available in her Etsy shop. In addition to her kit business, Cynthia splits her time between private quilt commissions and craft product design work. Cynthia is the author of Last Minute Fabric Gifts, published by Stuart Taborian Chang in 2006. Cynthia Treen, welcome.
Welcome. Thank you. I'm so glad to be here.
I'm really glad to have you. Alison Kaplan is the founder and creative director of Kata Golda, an independently owned business in Port Townsend, Washington, that creates handmade items using letterpress printing, ceramics, wool felt, and fabrics. Kata Golda began in 1999 when Alison started making toys for her baby girl, Odette. As her daughter grew and began to draw, Alison made her a sketchbook decorated with a hand-stitched felt teddy bear and adorned with her name. It became the forerunner of the Kata Golda collection. Kata Golda has grown into a flourishing business with the help of many skilled artisans living on the west coast of the United States. The company strives to pay living wages and preserve handicrafts such as needlework, letterpress printing, hand-thrown pottery, hand-dyed textiles, felting, and bookbinding. Alison is the author of Kata Golda's Hand-Stitched Felt, 25 Whimsical Sewing Projects, also published by Stuart Taborian Chang in 2009. Alison Kaplan, welcome.
Thank you.
It's great to have you here. So, Alison, let's start with you. I have to confess that for years, I assumed that your name was Kata. Do people often think that?
Yes, most people think that that is my name. And when I was just solely doing the work all by myself, I was fine with going by that name. And it actually is my Hebrew name. So it is kind of my name. But it's not the name that I go by. But then as more people became involved in my company and I had more help with design, and I just didn't feel right about going by Kata Golda because Kata Golda just encompassed as a bigger umbrella than just me. But I still get called Kata or Kata most of the time.
I would assume so. And my Hebrew name is Abigail Chana. My middle name is Jane. So, but I really never considered using that as my business name. So I think that was an interesting choice. And I'm wondering why you chose that rather than like Alison Kaplan Design or something else entirely.
I think a little bit of anonymity was associated with that. And it was sort of an original name. It had a nice flow. I like it. I like it better than my name. And that's why I'm not a religious, it's not a religion or anything like that. I identified with it and I like the sound of it.
I do too. I think it has a really nice sound. So good choice. So Kata Golda has really grown, and from the time when you were just making small things for your daughter. And I just wanted you to sort of trace the history for us a little bit from that sort of genesis of the sketchbook to sort of the way the company looks today.
Well, what really happened to me was that Kate's Papery, which was a big store in New York City in the 90s, paper store, picked me up, and then everyone thought I worked for Kate's and that my name was Kate and that I was really associated with that company. And that's really kind of what launched me into a real career with this.
So they saw some things that you had made and decided to start carrying your line.
Yes, and when they carried it, they carried it big. They didn't carry it just a little bit. I mean, I was like in their windows, and it really, I was incredibly busy, and that's when I needed some help. And I really don't have a particularly wonderful, maybe horrible business sense, so I didn't really know what I was getting myself into. I just know that I love to make things and stitch, and I liked making books, and it was a great beginning. And then,
I'm sorry, just to interrupt you. How did they find that first thing? Like, what did they see, and where did they see it?
Well, my brother was in a business that he met this rep, and then he showed this rep. He said, "You should meet my sister." And then he showed this rep this book that I made. And then that rep, who wasn't even my rep then, showed it to Kate's because she had a relationship with him. So that's how it happened.
Okay. Interesting.
But currently now I don't work with any reps or anything like that. But so that's really how it started. And then I became just this photo bookmaker. And as we all know, the business of photo books is not a big business anymore, really, with all the books that you can make on the computer. And I'm really lucky. I still make them, and I still have a great following. And that's really basically through my website that anyone would buy a book. A few shops have my books, but it's mostly through the website. And but I also just branched out into making other things, because books are what I sold, but I made so many other things. So that is how all the other parts of my line came to be, mostly with intending as toys or things for my daughter and her friends. And that's the other way my business grew, was that I made things. A friend and I started by making little felt things, and then friends would ask us to make some things, and then they would ask us to make some things for their friends. And then my friend and I decided, well, if we're making things for friends of friends, maybe they should buy them. And so then we changed our kind of methods and created a little business. And that was with a friend at the very beginning named Tracy, and we called ourselves Stella Odette because she had a baby named Stella. And that's sort of another part of it. And that was making the toys. And so got known for the books, and then I incorporated the toys in there too. And then my line became absolutely huge, and a little too huge. So now I'm creating a new line, which is a lot smaller, and also using a lot of different materials than I've used in the past.
So you said you needed to hire some help. You had this one friend who was working with you, but now you have sewists who do a lot of the stitching for you. So sort of describe for us what your staff looks like now.
Well, actually now I'm less, because I got to a place where I ended up making hundreds of Christmas stockings of wool felt. And very recently, like last year and the year before that, I'm like, I don't really like doing this. Like, I'm sort of now a production manager, and I really like doing the stitching. So now I'm much smaller. I have people accessible to me for the sewing, but that I realized as I got bigger that all the parts of what I love to do, I was losing. And so now I'm kind of going smaller again. And I am doing a big trade show this summer. And so there's a possibility of getting bigger again, but my line is much smaller, and I really need to have my hand more in it than it kind of lost. It got out of control, and in a way that when I would actually look at the things I was making, and I'm like, this doesn't even resonate with me anymore. So that's one aspect of the way things are now. But when I got big, when I started incorporating more people into my business prior to now, it was also just looking at the people who worked with me and their skills. So I had hired maybe them to sew, but one of them was really interested in fabric dyeing, and one of them was a letterpress printer, and one of them did ceramics. And so I thought maybe I could incorporate all these people to make things for the line, and hence I become Alison again, and Kata Golda becomes the company. And that's kind of how it happened. It was really just looking at the skills of the people that were working for me at the time.
That's so interesting. So and tell us about the new line that you're working to debut at the New York Now show that, as you described, is a little bit sort of more pared down and maybe resonates more with you.
Well, It has still has baby things in it, but it's just less. It's less of everything. And the stitching, instead of being real chunky kind of applique, is more like using the needle and thread to create a line as opposed to and draw. So using the needle and thread to draw with is more of my intention with the new work. And then there's a lot of different fabrics involved. Including some hemp and cotton and linen fabrics, all in neutral colors, and some of it's tea-dyed, so it kind of has a sort of almost batiqued look, but just a little slightly brownish and off-whitish colors. So I'm kind of changing my color palette with a few splashes of color. That the few splashes are felt, but I'm using less felt, and I love working with felt, but I also feel like I need to challenge myself and grow and try using other fabrics where I have to worry about fraying edges and I have to be a little bit more accurate, because when you work with felt a lot, it's easy to get sloppy for me. So I'm really enjoying kind of the challenge of being much more accurate and clear and simple. So that's kind of the new line now, and it has a lot of things for all ages. It goes from baby to adult decor,
and it's it really is beautiful. It has almost sort of a more modern, almost sort of Japanese kind of feel to it from what I can see. Where I love the idea of the stitching really being almost like a line drawing. So
well, I really love to draw, so it's nice to incorporate. I mean, I think that when you make the same things over and over and over again for years, I mean, it's nice to be able. I'm like, oh, you could change your line and incorporate what you love to do now. And it took a while to realize I could do that. I didn't have to stick with what I was always doing, and it's been wonderfully inspiring to me to move in this direction of just doing really staying true to doing what I love and keeping things really simple.
Yeah, and you're allowed to change. You're allowed to change in business. You're allowed to change in blogging, and you might not want to make a total shift, completely drop what you're doing and adopt something completely new. And this is certainly not doing that, but you're allowed to update the look. And, you've been doing this for several years. And I think that in order to keep it vibrant and something that you're really excited about every day, that's got to be part of it.
Yeah.
Yeah, totally. So you've got some classes on Creative Bug, and I'm wondering how you like the video instruction format.
Well, I loved going there. It was so fun. I was so nervous. It was so out of my comfort zone or of anything that I've ever done. I've never even watched a video instruction before, but I had so much fun preparing the class, getting all of the materials together. And I really hope and for the future to get to teach more classes, both live and video, because it was so different from working solitary and being alone. And I love to talk, and I loved sharing what I do with people, and I felt really comfortable doing it. And of course I had a lot of guidance and help when, where I left off and where I need to start up again, and when they were videotaping me and making sure I was being really clear. And I just love the experience. I love the people who work there, and I've never done anything like that before, and I've never really taught at workshops before, but I hope to do more of that. And Creative Bug is a wonderful company to work for. They have great ideas. They do a wonderful job, and it was fun.
Yeah, your video, I watched, the sort of parts that you can see just as like a preview for your classes, and your instructor preview as well. And they're really lovely. And I really think that video is it's just perfect for teaching craft instruction. So I'm so excited to see sort of the future of video. I think it's really great. So I reviewed your book, Hand Stitch Felt, in 2009 when it first came out. On my blog, I sewed the finger puppets, and they were totally adorable. I gave them to my niece for her first birthday. And you're working on a new book now. So can you tell us about the new book at all?
Well, I'm working on actually a few projects right now. I'm actually working on sort of 4 books because I realized as I was working on, 3 of them, that they all, they kind of splintered into different directions and became sort of less focused. So I would take something that I felt got really developed and make that a new book. So one is a kid's book, and I think that, and I've been working on that for a long time, and I've really hesitated to be paired up with a writer. There's children's books that I love and I just love so much and I feel like I have to write the book to do the illustration. So I'm working actually on one now, and we'll see what happens. I hesitate to say I'm working on it because maybe it'll never be in the world, but it's fun to work on. And the other 3 projects are craft related, and one is it's right now the working title is Mindful Crafting, and it's basically based on my new line. So it has felt and fabric, but it has a way you could copy the pattern or you can make it your own, and it has stories in it as well. And then the other one is about, it's called The Thread That Connects Us, and it's about my mom and me. And she, when I was little, she had a knitting and needlepoint shop, and knitting and needlepoint and cross stitch shop. And so it's just about my growing up with crafters always around me, and it really came to light because I was looking at the things that we've made, and we make a lot of things parallel to each other, but they look completely different. Like we both have made stuffed lambs, and we both have made pillows, and we both have made teddy bears and slippers and all these things. So I kind of laid out all these things that we made and I thought, boy, it would be kind of neat if that was a book of stories and patterns. And so that's what I'm working on.
That's neat. What a neat idea. Like a mother and daughter sort of creative interpretation of the same projects, but done in their own way.
Yes. And the last one is just basically I make hundreds of things, and somehow to like make a lookbook or something of all those things and kind of organize them. It's more of a catalog for myself, I think. But
yeah. Do you need a catalog for the New York Now show? Like, do you have to I would assume for a trade show, right? Do you need to put something like that together?
Yeah, but I'm doing it differently this time. I've done some really slick catalogs before, and now I'm just doing kind of a fold-out brochure with less things, but I will have printed material.
Mm-hmm. To bring with you there.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. It's so great to hear about your background. And Cynthia, I want to turn to you. And I know that you, as I mentioned, worked for Martha Stewart. And I have to say, I'm pretty intrigued. So will you tell me more about what you did for the magazine and for the show?
Sure, yeah. I started there in 1998, I guess. I had just moved from Los Angeles, and somebody that I worked with in Los Angeles was working for Martha Stewart, and so we connected, and I started freelancing for them. So I did a lot of different things because I started as a freelancer. I did photo styling for the magazine and for the catalog, and I did craft development for Martha by Mail when that was still in existence.
Yeah.
So I developed craft kits for them, and I think that was sort of the beginning of, the idea for doing craft kits was the work that I did with them. So I did a lot of extensive direction writing and how to kind of work. And so that sort of gave me the framework for the kits that I do today.
So can you tell us about like one of the kits that you remember most from the ones you put together for Martha?
Yeah, I did the 2 that I guess relate the most to what I'm doing now. I did 2 stuffed animal collections. They were made in mohair, sort of to resemble the Steiff stuffed animals.
Uh-huh.
So there were 6 animals total in the 2 different kits. I think there was a cow, a sheep, a piglet, a duck, a rabbit, and I can't seem to remember the last one. But anyway, it was really exciting, and it was my first time making stuffed animals, as a professionally. I mean, I made a lot of things as a kid, and it took me a long time to get the bodies right, especially with the mohair, because that adds a completely different dimension to like the thickness of it, changes the shape of the body. So, if your pattern is one size, the body is going to look chubbier. And it took me a while to kind of get that right. But I really loved the process, and I loved the illustration and the direction writing. And I guess I knew that was going to stick with me.
Yeah, that's so neat. And so that was sort of the genesis for the kids. Yeah. So then you took some time off and you worked on these beautiful quilts. You do like is it reverse applique? It's a really beautiful technique. I have a wonderful client that's been ordering for me for several years, and they're really the only people that I do the quilts for at this point. It's just not a part of my business that I advertise very much. Is it a corporate? Is it a corporate client or a personal? No, it's a personal client. Okay. But it's been wonderful. I'm on my third collection with this family. Wow. There's different branches of the family, but I do the batch that I described in that year that I took off. There were 4 quilts, and they were all a combination of applique, reverse applique, and embroidery. Mm-hmm. And it was pretty amazing. It was a really intense year. a little bit like writing that book that I wrote, which was also a really intense year because I had never done it before. And this was my first time really doing start to finish completely hand stitched quilts. So each quilt was about it was probably a little over a year. I guess it was like 4 or 5 months of like 10-hour days. Wow. And it was so it was just so much time, and I got so attached to the pieces, but after I finished them, I felt like I really want to be able, no one's going to see these, the family that has them, and like, they're never going to be out into the world, and that's fine. And I don't have the ability to do this kind of work on my own and still, buy groceries. If only, but yeah. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, I thought, I really want to help people learn how to sew, because I have a lot of people in my life. I have a lot of people that come to me and want to take sewing lessons, but they often are at the stage where, they're just getting to know their sewing machine. And I feel like they don't really need to learn that from me. You know what I mean? Like, I feel a little funny teaching like the super very basic on the machine, because it's like a lot of what I do is hand stitching. And anyway, and so I thought I wanted to come up with something that was a really approachable way to begin sewing, something that just, I have all these fantastic memories of childhood and these really magical memories and about being creative, but also about stories and characters and stories. And I somehow I wanted to blend all of those things into the kits. And so hopefully I've done that. Oh, I think definitely. Gosh, the frog, totally. Yeah. Oh, yeah, totally storybook. Absolutely. Yeah. And so I felt like, I have these sort of levels in the kits where many of them are accessible to children 8 and up, but hopefully they're inspiring and interesting and fun for people of all ages. And that seems to be the case. I mean, young kids really love them, but I have adults who are doing like craft parties, and buying a whole bunch of them and making them over a glass of wine, and then I developed these sort of, more advanced ones to kind of keep everybody interested as they grew with the kits. And so that's where the foxes and the frog and the reindeer and more complicated ones in the future will sort of add to the line. So I have both for youth and for adults. So you've got these kits and they're in stores all over. I mean, I've seen them in stores myself, and I think I mentioned in the beginning that they're in, hundreds of stores. So who does the assembly? Like, are you cutting all of this yourself? Are you collating and combining and putting the stickers on the packages? I mean, what does it really look like? Yeah, well,
it's basically me. I have one person who helps me out who's amazing. She was my intern when she was in high school. Now she's, I don't know, 27. And she is brilliant. And she comes in and helps me a couple of days a week. But basically it's just the two of us. My partner's a photographer. Her name is Karen Philippi, and she does all my photography. So that's kind of nice to have it in-house.
Gosh, that is nice.
But basically I do pretty much all of it. I don't have the pieces die cut. So I want people to learn how to cut as well as sew, because I feel like there are a lot of people who just have grown up not really being great with tools. And so I don't want to, remove that from the learning process, I guess. So everything is cut into rectangles. And I do all the cutting myself. I have the printing done by a local printer who does everything with, water-based inks and FSC certified paper. And I've tried to use all, recycled packaging, food safe boxes, cause it's going for kids, and natural materials. But it all happens, just with the two of us. And I feel like I don't want it to grow so big that I can't contain it, because I still want to do other things, and I don't want my life to be all about production. So I want the time to do the design work. I want to do design work for other companies, and I want to have time to do the quilt commissions when they come in. So I try to keep it balanced, and I do also. I'm really interested in growing the PDF pattern part of my business, because there's no waste, and people can just get the PDF and run with it and make it their own. So
yeah, I love my PDF pattern business as well, for that reason, among others. But so I want to talk with both of you about something that I think the three of us really share, which is actually, Cynthia, you had emailed me and you said, and this is, I'm quoting you here. I hope you don't mind, but you said, I sometimes feel like I need to apologize for the work, as though my animals are not the real work that comes out when I create for myself. Because you do create more sort of sophisticated things, the quilts, among other things. I know you've done some fine art kind of installation work as well. Mm-hmm. And then you said, and I'm quoting again, that teaching is where it's at. No more apologies. Bringing a bit of magic and stitching to kids is equal or perhaps more important than bringing sophistication to adults. And I think what you're really getting at here, at least to me, is that, we have businesses that are really based on whimsical, things for children, things that people do as a hobby. And yet they're serious businesses. And so sort of working to kind of not having to say, well, it's not really art, or it's not really a profitable business, or, all of those things, like to have to apologize for them. I did a reader survey last year, and one of the people, it was an anonymous survey, and one of the people who answered said, I like what you're doing now, but I miss the time when you used to make soft sculpture birds, which I did for many years before I started making toys. And she said, I'm assuming it's a woman, she said, so what about your art? And I felt like, but this is just as nuanced and complex. And to me, it is art. So anyway, I wanted to get your take on that. Alison, I'll start with you if you have any thoughts on that idea.
Well, I always backpedal, but I just have this little business. I always say things like that, because I'm not sure explaining it to people, and they'll go like, "Oh, that's cute," kind of. And so I fall. I'm a victim of this as well. I do this, but I also I love what I do. When I really just think about what I do, I love it, and it makes me so happy, and it's so fulfilling. So that's almost enough. I'm not sure if that answers the question, and as my new line is growing a little bit away from making things that are really that are kid oriented, I still love to make things that are kid oriented, but I think that my daughter is 15, and I think that what I think about has changed as she gets older, and it's just sort of following the track of my life, what I'm making. But basically, I need to remind myself that I feel so lucky and that I love every day of my life. So
yeah, absolutely. And that passion is what keeps you going, you know? So Cynthia, did you want to talk more about that feeling?
Yeah, I mean, it's such a funny thing, you know. I think that a lot of people in creative fields go through this process of trying to find who they are creatively, and what is the thing that's going to keep you inspired and challenged. And I look around me. I live in Providence, and it's just a city filled with creative people, and there's so much inspiring work going on. But the truth is, I feel the same way. I love every day of my life. I'm totally inspired by this work. I do other things as well. They're not as visible or public. But I think just really I need to solidly be proud of this.
Right.
Because I am. It's just, when I see somebody doing, amazing fine artwork and showing in galleries and so forth, I think, well, I make kid stuff. I want to illustrate children's books. I want to, but it is totally fulfilling and
totally legitimate.
And totally legitimate. Exactly.
Yes, absolutely. Totally. And you do some teaching, Cynthia, and you've taught actually at two of the local places here in Massachusetts where I teach, at Gather here in Cambridge and at JP Knit and Stitch in Jamaica Plain. So what do you like most about teaching workshops? It's really great just being hands-on with people, and a lot of the people that are taking classes at shops now are beyond that sort of that first beginner level, and they want to learn a little more deeply into whatever I'm teaching. So whether it's applique or embroidery, it's just a really nice thing to connect with people and find out what their interests are. And it's also really, really inspiring to see colors that people choose and the way that I learn things from the people I'm teaching all the time, which I think I appreciate as much as anything. Yeah, totally. And I often end up sort of adding to my patterns, and editing things and providing more ideas and options once I see the way that people work with them one-on-one. It's really neat. I love it.
Yeah, I totally agree.
Yeah, it's really cool. So, all right. So, I want to shift gears a little bit. I asked both of you to prepare some lists of things that you're recommending right now. And I've got my list too. So if it's okay with you guys, we'll just dive right into those. And let's start with you, Alison. And you wanted to talk about Alabama Stitch Book by Natalie Channon.
Yes, that's one of the things. When you said 5, I made a bigger list than 5. So, but Natalie Channon is definitely on my list in the Alabama Stitch Book. All of her books, actually. And I think she has a new one coming out, too. But there's the Alabama Studio Style and then the Alabama Stitch Design and Sewing plus Design. And I think that just the photography in them is so beautiful. I think that the pictures that show like the close-ups of the little stitches are just so inspiring to me. I mean, I think I use them more as a lookbook than an actual following the patterns and making the items. But the intimacy and the closeness that's visible in the books is just something I like to have open to a page when I'm working. I like to page through them. I follow her blog and look at the new things that she's liking and her journal. And I just find her to be very inspiring in her sticking to her materials, really based on simple concepts, and she makes beautiful things. And it's kind of I try to keep that little mantra in my head when I'm working. So she's very inspiring to me.
Yeah, she's inspiring to me too. There was a great interview with her on the podcast Thread Cult. The most recent episode is an interview with her, which I found to be really interesting. You might enjoy it. I really enjoyed it. And there's many things I love about her. And one of them is that she works with, t-shirt jersey, which is such a humble material. And, she kind of invented this applique method with t-shirt jersey that's now really like high fashion. And I just love that. I love people who don't feel like they have to follow the rules. They feel, who can kind of say, well, what would happen if we put these two things together and then stitch them totally backward? Or, just kind of came up with their own idea instead of being like, well, the way sewing works is you always have to do it this way, So she's a real example of somebody who thought outside of that and came up with a technique that's completely her own. And I agree with you that, she really works hard to use organic cottons. And she has a staff of people who sew for her, who she really respects as artisans. So she's, really cool. And I've watched part of her her Craftsy class as well. And she also has a class on Creative Bug too. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So, what a neat person. Good pick. Very good pick. I don't have that book, but I'm going to get it from the library. So, all right. So Cynthia, I wanted to talk about your Japanese push drill, because I think I need this.
Yeah, you have to.
I was like, I looked it up and I'm like, oh yes, I do need this right now.
Yeah. I'm a total tool junkie, when you find a new tool that you can use all the time, it's just, it's such a treat. I mean, I really like having tools that work well, and this one is fantastic. There are a lot of them, the same push drill is sold in a lot of different places, but the great thing about the one that they have available at Talus is that it comes with the most screw-in hole punches. So the way that this thing works is that it's got a wooden handle, and you can screw in these little different sized punch drills. And when you push down on the handle, there's a mechanism inside that twists so that you don't need a hammer or anything. And it's like no strain on your hands to use it. You just push down and it kind of like spins the drill. I mean, the dye that's cutting through the fabric. Anyway, it's a wonderful thing. It's a little pricey when you buy the tool. I think it ends up being like around $65 or something to have I think it's 9 bits plus the drill. But I literally use this tool almost every day.
And can you cut felt with it?
Oh my gosh, you can cut paper, you can cut felt, you can cut leather, it's awesome. It's awesome.
Oh.
Yeah.
Alison's like, I'm ordering this now. Yeah, no, that sounds really cool. I use Sizzix paddle punches, which is actually a product that's now unavailable, although you can get them on eBay, but Sizzix no longer produces them. And they're like a little die, and then you hit it with a hammer. And they're made for punching paper, but you can punch felt and you can punch fabric. I've punched all kinds of things, and I use them all the time, and I have circles, but it also has other shapes. So it has little hearts and all kinds of other shapes. I've got tons of shapes. But the one I use the most is the circle, and it's great for cutting felt for eyes, if you want to cut perfect felt circles for eyes. But it sounds like this would be much less strain, because you have to hammer that thing 4 or 5 times to get one circle.
Oh my gosh. No, you can go with this drill. They call it a, punch drill or push drill. I can probably go through 8 layers of felt at once.
Oh my gosh. Okay.
Yeah. Anyway. and it comes with the bits are all, I don't know why this is important, but they are metric. And so for some reason, they go down to these really, really microfine sizes, so that if you were putting eyes onto a stuffed animal or something, you could easily punch out that hole and it wouldn't show at all, but it would still be a really tight fit for the eye going in.
Wow.
Yeah. Anyway,
that's cool.
That part of it doesn't make any sense at all, but it's not important, but they go down to a really tiny size.
Awesome. I think a tiny size is cool.
Yeah.
That's really great. That's a good pick. So thank you. Okay. So I wanted to talk about something that's a little bit more businessy and, maybe not so interesting to the two of you. I don't know, but maybe. So it's about blogging. And, so I just moved my blog from TypePad to WordPress, and that was kind of a big deal. But now I'm on WordPress, which I'm loving. But I needed some help with a couple of things, especially setting up my shop. I have a shop now right on my site for my PDF patterns and supplies and books, etc. And I wanted to set up taxes. I wanted to set it up so that you could use just a credit card for direct checkout and not have to go to PayPal if you didn't want to. Just, a bunch of little things like that. And it was really confusing. And I wasn't able to – I wanted to be sure it was right because, if you're taking somebody's credit card information, it's got to be right. There's security risk there. So I just wanted to be sure it was totally kosher. So I worked with this woman whose name is Sarah Bailey, and her company is called Spun Monkey, and she's awesome. She will help you with any kind of little WordPress thing you have a problem with. She can help you buy hosting. She can help you choose and install a theme. She can help teach you to use WordPress. She can do SEO optimization. She can do transferring all of your followers, which she did for me. So Sarah is awesome, and she charges $50 an hour, which honestly she can get a lot done in an hour. And I think that she's totally worth it. And so I really wanted to recommend her because I know a lot of people want to be on WordPress, or if they are on WordPress, just need a little bit of help. Like every so often, there's just something that's like a little bit too complex. And so I think she's a great resource, super responsive and helpful. So let's go back up to Alison. And will you tell us about this book, Daily Rituals? It looks really cool.
Well, I have to say this book changed my life probably more than anything in recent years. This book, it's by a guy named Mason Curry, and it talks about different writers, painters, composers, sculptors, filmmakers, scientists, etc., and about their daily ritual. Just a little blurb about, and they're pretty well known. Benjamin Franklin is in there. Louise Bourgeoisie is in there. Myra Kalaman is in there, and composers as well. I just love reading about how much time they spend actually focused working, because I put a lot of pressure on myself and I get really overwhelmed and I feel like you need to be able to work longer than that. And really a lot of these people had a focus of about two solid, great focused hours a day when they were doing their writing and their thinking. And it was really comforting for me to hear that. Like, it's not possible to work at that kind of thinking pace for like 8 hours a day. And the ones that were able to work 8 hours a day were drug addicts. So, and I just found their stories really inspiring, the kinds of things that what they would eat for breakfast. It sort of made them human to me. And, how little tips like Henry Miller wrote that he spends 2 hours and that's all that he spends, and he likes to leave feeling inspired and wanting to write more, but he stops himself. And certain people have times of the day where they work better than other times. And I think that I just put a lot of pressure on myself to be like much more robotic in my days. And this book sort of allowed me to like really follow my own personal humanness, and it's helped me tremendously. It's
wow.
like therapy. So, and I have pages marked that I love, and my copy is really tattered and well worn, but I keep it with me all the time when I'm working. So not all the time, but when I'm working, I have it with me.
That's beautiful. And I love the way that you said that about sort of feeling like it's okay to just be human and to be creative on your own schedule and with what feels right for you. Not to say that is an excuse to not work today, but to sort of not make, because I also am a person who puts a lot of pressure on myself to get absolutely everything done in a single day. But with creativity really can't be rushed. And I found that when I was working on both of my books that, I would say, well, I have to get this each pattern done in 3 weeks. You have to, from design to finished pattern every 3 weeks all year in order to meet this deadline. And it was so, it's hard to just rush that and say, well, the penguin, it looks kind of lopsided and I have to fix it right now. And it's like, well, I have to also sort of think of how to fix it. And that might take a while,
I think, and also the book, a lot of the people have really strict discipline. And I like that strict discipline with kind of lower expectations of time. Expectations are small, but I also, the thinking, there's so many different parts that I'm sure both of you experience in your work. It's like you have the thinking time, then you have like just the stitching, making time where you kind of have your ideas all set and you could be chatting on the phone or have a friend over and be doing the making part. So there's so many different parts of the day, and that this book kind of informed that as well for me.
Yeah, totally. That's great. Okay, Cynthia, you wanted to talk about another tool that sounds terrific, Roxanne's Quilter's Choice chalk pencils, which I'm leaning toward getting only because my daughter is named Roxanne. So.
Well, they do have a great name,
yes,
but that's only a small part of it. When I first started to do quilting, I was, looking through all these different materials, trying to figure out what were the best things to use, and marking pencils are really frustrating. Most of them are either they don't wash out really well, or most of them have this really crumbly kind of texture. So if you put any pressure on them, the whole point breaks off. And these ones are fantastic. They're really smooth on the fabric. They're not as brittle as most of them. And they're completely water soluble. So they come in a silver color, which I tend not to use as much. But I'm sure I'll find a use for them at some point. But the white I use all the time. And at this point, it's the only marking pencil that I buy because I probably have a drawer filled with different brands, but this is the only one that I found that I really like.
Yeah, I tend to use the pens, the blue pens that you spray with water, but I get so frustrated because the mark often will it's not that it reappears, but it like bleeds. It'll look like it's disappeared. You spray it with water, it looks like it's gone, and then, the fabric will dry. And then it's still there, like the outer edges still have some blue pigment, and you have to spray it again.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I know. They're frustrating. And so I've used those pens too. I've used them in all their forms, and there certainly are applications for them. And as far as like a second alternative, I would say that those are definitely it. Depending on what you're doing, the air soluble ones that are pretty great if you're doing something, not for marking embroidery or something that you need to stay on the fabric for a while. But if you're just marking something that you want to disappear, they really will just disappear. Like they just kind of evaporate, but they don't last that long. So if you need the mark to be there in 20 minutes, you might want to use something else. Yeah,
and I've been using, somebody recommended the Frixion pens, which are not actually a fabric pen. They're sold at Staples and an office supply, but they disappear with heat, so you can just iron over it. And those are cool, but the mark reappears apparently when it gets cold.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's really hard, and I've found from a lot of my students too, they feel sort of frustrated because you go into a store and there are 20 different options and they have no idea what to buy.
Yeah.
And there aren't really, it's like if you do research, there are definitely reviews on things, but there are a lot of I think there are probably a lot of good reviews on things that I wouldn't give good reviews.
Mm-hmm. Yes, right. Like whose review do you trust?
Exactly. I know. Anyway, the point is that
we trust your review.
Use them all to figure it out.
Yeah, we trust your review of the Roxanne's Quilter's Choice chalk pencils. So, okay.
Just a tiny little aside, back to that really wonderful book Alison was just talking about. I have heard about that book too and have been wanting to get a copy. I haven't picked it up yet, but I did read a few reviews of it that had little tidbits, sort of about some of the things she was describing. And I wanted to add this one little something that I'm trying to think of the name of the movie now, but it was a movie about a poet and his girlfriend, and there was this one description of the poet and another friend of his working, and one of them said, just because it doesn't look like we're working doesn't mean that we're not working. And I think that can be said about a lot of creative people. We have these, possibly a few intensive, productive hours a day where we're, really creating. But I'm thinking about creative things when I'm cooking, when I'm sleeping. I often close my eyes at night and spend an hour before I fall asleep just considering things and solving problems, and if I'm lucky, I wake up with a solution.
Absolutely. So, I think of some of the best ideas creative ideas I've thought of in the car, driving the carpool.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Shuttling kids from one place to the other. It's like my mind just sort of wanders in this passive way, and all of a sudden I have a great idea.
Yeah. It's like when you don't have pressure, you can think about things, and your mind wanders into the great areas. I have a terrible memory, so I always have a little notebook with me, and I keep a notebook by my bed, because even if I say to myself, you'll remember this, and I try to even make some little trick in my mind to remember, I don't remember. I remember I need to remember something. That's what it was. But I always just, even a little, sometimes it can just be a word, and that'll trigger the memory, but I need to write something down. And I think that a lot of people have this experience, like it's just write a little word down, just to remind yourself what you thought about, because I sometimes, like when I'm cooking, I have a little notebook next to me, and if I want to write some word down to remind myself, because creative things don't happen when you're sitting there deciding, I need to be creative now.
Yeah. Right. It's that feeling of being rushed almost, or like having a deadline. It's hard. It's one thing to sort of have a deadline for something you're writing, or, if you're writing pattern instructions, for example, I can see that having to be done in a deadline, but the sort of creative problem solving, I really feel like it comes to you, and you need time, you do. You need time to mull it over. So Alison, I wanted to make sure that we hit this next one, which is Marcel the Shell with Shoes On, the video.
That I love more than anything. I watch it all the time. I love the little voice. I don't know if either of you ever seen it.
Yes.
No. I'll have to watch.
You have to watch it. It's short. The voice and the randomness, and I'm just so mad at myself that I didn't write that. I just love it so much. He's so... even talking about it, I'm going to do it a disservice. Everyone should watch Marcel the Shell with Shoes On.
So this is an animated short, and it's a little anthropomorphic shell who has one googly eye and in this sort of signature childlike voice.
I don't know what else to say except watch it, because I don't want to ruin like some of the great little tidbits that he says. Like he says, do you know what I used to write with? Do you know what I used to do this? Do you know what I used to do that? And it's just in the voice, the whole package, you just watch it.
Yeah. So it has 30 million views on YouTube. I'm just going to say that. And also I think, Alison, you might like, the woman who voices Marcel is named, her name is Jenny Slate. And she actually co-wrote, the video with her husband. Like she came up with this voice, and she would kind of talk in it. And her husband was like, we should make a video of this, and kind of came up with Marcel and made it, and she voiced it. And she now has done other things. She's in a couple of movies and things, but there's a great interview with her, and she talks about how they came up with Marcel and the whole story about it. And I'll link to it, but it's on Bullseye, which is another podcast. So anyway, I listen to a lot of podcasts. So yeah.
I love a podcast list, and I actually acquired a podcast list from listening to your podcast. So, because oftentimes, when someone that I was listening to, I was kind of binge listening to your podcast when I was on vacation with my family, and they were out mountain biking, and I was binge listening. And but I felt so comfortable and happy to hear all these people talk a little bit about like being lonely and like really finding comfort in listening to the podcast because they were like really felt connected to these people, and they weren't like famous people. They were like real people. And when I was listening to yours, I felt that way, and I felt so fulfilled.
Yay. That's awesome. Well, thank you. Okay. So Cynthia, we have time for one last pick, and it's yours. Do you want to choose?
Oh my gosh.
I know there's so many. You have 3 excellent ones. I feel sad that I don't.
Yeah. Well, maybe you'll have the links up for them.
Yeah. Okay.
Well, we're kind of on the tool thing, so I'm just going to stick with that. But say that, everybody should check out Casa Clementino, which is an amazing natural dyeing place in Italy. And this, my most recent listen, People of the Book, is amazing. But the scissor collection at the French Needle, it's an online shop, and they have some scissors that are all handmade by an artisan in France, and they are the most beautiful artwork I have ever seen. Well, they're just amazing. They're all, some of them have pictures of, like, the handles are sculpted to be like foliage of trees. Some of them have animals built into the handles, and they are absolutely beautiful. They are, they're just totally on my wish list, but probably will be for some time because they're about $500 a pair. But they're really worth looking at and enjoying.
This is like an artisan tool, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah, which I imagine, when we do get a pair many years from now.
Yes.
It's one of those things when you use it, every time you use it, you just love it, Yeah.
I feel like I've tried, when I got my first apartment in New York, my mom came to visit, and she was so distressed. She was like, there's not a chair for me to sit on. I was like, well, I don't want to get a chair until I get a chair that I like. I don't want to get a chair because whatever chair I get, I'm going to be stuck with for a really long time, and we did finally get her a chair to sit on. But that's sort of how I've felt my whole life about the things that surround me, Granted, I do have plenty of scissors, but I really love to have things that I enjoy using because it makes the work process really wonderful too. So, anyway, so eventually I'll upgrade my little trimming scissors to these many years from now.
And you'll love them every single time. So it'll be worth it. Okay. Well, this has been a fantastic conversation. I feel like I've learned so much from both of you. And, Alison, where should we go to find you online?
Well, you could go to my website, katagolda.com, and I have an Etsy site as well. But I'm right in the process right now of a new website. So I'll have an all-new Etsy shop, an all-new website, all-new blog. My blog's a little bit hard to access right now because we're transferring over. But by August 1st, everything will be new. So, but in the meantime, those are the best places to find me.
That sounds great. And congratulations on getting a new site. I know how much work that is, but it's totally worth it. So that's great. And where can we find you, Cynthia?
My website is threadfollower.com, and you can find me also on Facebook and in my Etsy shop. And those are both Cynthia Treen Studio _threadfollower. But if you put in Cynthia Treen Studio or threadfollower pretty much anywhere, I'll pop up.
Awesome. Thank you so much, you guys. You've been listening to the While She Naps podcast. I'm Abby Glassenberg, and I invite you to visit my blog, whileshenaps.com, where you'll find helpful information for creative entrepreneurs, as well as tutorials and patterns for making stuffed animals and dolls. If you enjoyed the show, tell a friend about it. Thank you so much, and see you next time.